For the Necromancer, he begins to move some of the Tal Pletor forces down. He's preparing for an attack on Zoroaster. To me, it looks like trying to take Clarion Riot out is probably outside my reach. That would have to be a naval air power attack, although I do have a big pile of vampires here, so I may be able to make that strike, or make the strike here sort of a combined strike on Loimarich. But the problem is, I may still be involved in that attack at the time that I hit Zoroaster. With Loimarich in the way here, it makes it a harder job for an invasion from Clarion Riot. They'd have to use naval power. They're this yellow. They don't have any boats here. They do have one up here and one up here. This one can't get down into this area. So, because of the way the topography is set up, so they're left with one boat. Successfully made my attack here, didn't get the undead at Fontenay. I may be overstacked here, I gotta check. Drove a couple of navies out. Now let's see about overstacking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 units. I can only keep 6. Question is whether I want to kill one of these siege engines. I don't really need 2 there. I'm going to kill Fernand's siege engine because I can rebuild that. I still got to look up the rules on rebuilding those, especially since Tal Pletor is almost out of troops. I've got 1 that I lost due to attrition. Other than that, diplomacy failed again. This time there were a lot of close calls. For example, Measle here got 3 successes, so he was a total of +2 on his die roll. He ends up rolling a 6, not good enough. He would have needed an 8 to get Stavrohr over. This is a lot of effort for Stavrohr that hasn't panned out. Usually it does. Paterstrachoim came over here and raised a bunch of undead. Not terribly useful, but they can serve as garrisons and help. He's captured a Hosterian, which means no more troops there. Boats have escaped. No more troops can be built in a Hosterian until it's reconquered, which is a tough task. They can't just take a city and start building in it. There's another action that was taken. Trying to figure out what it is. Oh, I moved Fernand Conniver here so he can grab the Keeper's Scepter because Silwer has that big fire magic that's useful in combat. I'm planning that I'm going to have to be engaging in some combat where I'm going to need that. But there still is something else I want to... Oh yes, I've gathered a bunch of vampires here. This is to make a possible attack on Zoroaster. It's a possible problem, but whatever. I would have liked to have moved through here and dropped off another one of Fernand's troops here, but that would have cost me an extra attrition roll. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I lost 2 units as it was, so I'm going to have to worry about how I rebuild his units. I'll look that up. For the Kingdom player, there isn't much to do. He's got these ships which he can hide up, somewhere, because the evil player has no boats. He's able to get some boats, say here, some undead boats, or if he kills some, or if somehow he gets a wood mage. That's pretty damn unlikely. There's one at Clarion Riot. One thing I've been ignoring all game is this Torch of Liberty, which actually is a powerful wood mage in and of itself, an item that has wood magic. I've been completely ignoring that. Every odd turn it changes hands. Basically, it has had no effect. The only effect the Clarion Riot election table has is who has that magic item attached to them, and they are the only person who can have it during that period. That's a pretty minor effect, and I don't want to really be rolling things useless all the time. I'll look up that rule, and I'll try to figure out where to hide those ships, although they're pretty safe where they are. Kingdom player's not going to do anything. I looked up the rule. Those forces can be built only wherever Fernand is. He's got to be in a city. He's not right now, obviously. And I can use any money from any of my kingdoms. Tal Pletors have has a pile of cash. I can probably only build a number of units equal to the city's strength. So I'm probably going to want to put him in a city just to muster troops at the end of this turn. I can't muster them, though, say, here in Stavro or in some neutral country that I'm trying to get on my side. So, I don't know. He's got the magic wand right now, although I could hand that back to Silver to take care of this more important matter right now. Because I don't see Silver doing much unless I'm launching an attack this turn. This is my last turn. No, next turn. Next turn I can launch an invasion of Zoroaster, which might be my wise turn to do so because they're going to come in automatically next turn anyway. So I may be setting up for that. I gotta garrison this to keep those ships from just sneaking in and taking some of my production away. But as it stands, I'm going to be able to build a significant number of vampires now to prepare myself for that for the sort of major stage of the game where the Empire comes into play. Okay, after adding up, well, first I did Tal Pletor's production. They could only take 1 infantry because I don't have Ferdinand Conniver in place to be able to rebuild his units. But after calculating out what I have, Starkeep, Ahasiran, and Lamarich, minus, of course, the territories that are adjacent, I come up with 96 points. Divided by 5 means, oops, guess I put plus 5 there. Divided by 5 is I can have 19 vampires. Now right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I could build up to 11 more, but I can't. So all I'm going to be able to build is 8 more vampires. That's going to dig me deep into the lesser vampires. I've been using lesser vampires before because I want to be able to build my greater ones where they'll have the most effect. So I've got like a lesser back here. I've got lessers back here that I'm planning on using as garrisons. But I'm going to have a huge horde of vampires. What am I going to do with them? This is the big question. I can't get anywhere right now. My vampires are stuck in this territory unless I want to extend my military endeavor by attacking, say, Zoroaster a turn early and give a production a turn early. I don't really want to do that. I just want a huge force to hit them with. And this is pretty big. I can't get them over here. Normally I have some in here, but Stavro hasn't come over in time. And then over here, Tal Pletor, this area is its own little thing, preparing also for an invasion. I'm going to try to hit the Empire as hard as I can. If I can knock the Empire out, I win an auto victory. I don't think that's possible, but if I can take, say, half the Empire, well, I've already got 96 points or whatever. So, I'm getting close. Half the Empire should be enough to get me a minimal victory at the least. A little bit of help, maybe, if I can maybe launch an attack on here. I don't know. It's hard to tell what the best move at this point is, but I feel it's too late to go for another land. Usually, I've caught myself doing well enough with the Dark player that I'm ready to launch an attack on Calarian Ariat back here around turn 7, say. Or launch an attack on Thalari. Quite often I have Stavro early, and it's so useless. What I've been able to do in this game is build up my vampires to an extent that I usually haven't been able to. So that might actually work out well. We'll see. Anyway, I've got a whole bunch of them to build, 8 more to build. One thing I noticed is I forgot to set up all my 1-point infantry in the Empire. No big yay. It's not like I was planning an invasion until now, and I looked and said, oops. I think I've got everything else on the board that I'm supposed to. There's no light cav, there's an extra siege engine, and 4 of the legions are on the board. That means that the Empire can really be knocked down pretty far early. So that's what I'm going to set up for and try to hit it with the biggest blow I can for this turn. That's my goal. Okay, well, I moved up with what I could, as close as I could within stacking limits. Starting to move my undead infantry into place. Not taking a lot of attrition losses. In fact, no vampires died. I should have probably taken, if I had a lesser here, I should have probably taken him because one of Fernand's units died. But I moved him over here, leaving the staff over here with the hopes of getting some additional troops. The staff, or Fernand, is in position where he can build at least a couple more units back. He's got several losses. I've got an extra siege engine there. I probably won't be building that. I'm pushing forward with the the Tal Pletor forces into position where they'll be able to hit. And I've got everything as close as I can. The diplomacy all failed yet again. And, well, the Kingdom player doesn't get to do much. I'm going to get to reposition a little bit more next turn, but that's it. And then we have to hit, and that repositioning may include hitting this. The boats can come sliding down at least as far as here, where if Loy Marich enters into this somehow in either direction, and it's more likely to be a Kingdom ally, then I'm in position where I can strike it, at least on this side with the boats. And then I've actually got naval access through here into the Empire. We'll see how far we can get. It's kind of tough, like this stack. It can't really be here. I can only have 2 units there in the mountains. So there's, an attrition loss that I'm going to take in that initial charge across to hit some of these territories. But we'll hit them and, take what we can away from the Empire as quickly as possible and try to reduce its ability to build its army up. It has these damn legionary units, which I believe are pretty cheap to build. They're only 10-point infantry, just like any other infantry. There's no special value to them. So they're going to be able to put a pretty big army into play right away. Risky. This is always kind of the nail-biting part of the turn of the game. For the Kingdoms player, there isn't a lot they can do. Like moving this piece, they have a 50% chance of destroying it. Might as well leave it as a roadblock there. The boats, well, they can't do anything exciting yet. Not without violating somebody's piece. So I think they're not taking a turn at all. And we can just push forward into the exciting 10th. All right, a relatively massive attack is underway here. I'm not sure I need Silwer here. I think I'll keep him up with Tsar. It's hard to tell because his ability to burn units is valuable. Not so much on attack, although that may be where he's most useful here. I've got Tol Morn leading the attack here. Actually, this is where I want Silver. It's because of defense against the Imperial stack that might come after him that I want him there. I don't really want the staff there, but I don't have much choice. I've moved Fernand Conniver on an attack here because I'll be able to muster troops in that city. He needs to attack a city. Is this the best choice? This is only a 1-point city. Am I hitting any 2-point cities? Because he might be better somewhere else. And this is a risky attack. Maybe I want someone here. I've only got a 1-to-1 attack with a penalty for the mountains. Ugh. I'll put Tol Morn over there. He's my big guy. Here I've got 7. It's not going to be any better either. All right. I'm going to have to pull Paterch off the line and send him into battle there. The reason he needs to be somewhere is because he can raise the dead. Silwer may be better elsewhere. I'll use Fernand in charge of these vampires. That way he can raise more troops. And that leaves me with Silwer. Now, Silwer can kill units that might be more valuable. Because then I'll get some infantry here that I can bring in as reinforcements. That's not terribly useful. The reinforcements I get here might be better. I get a boat. A boat's not really helpful for me here. It would be more helpful here. Yeah, you see how this all kind of balances out. I'd rather have Tolmorn over here. Which means I think I'll use Silver up here. And I'll use Paterch. This is so hard. Trying to decide where things are important. So the thing is, where do I want to regenerate people? Well, if I keep the Scepter, I think I'll go after Saar with the Scepter. I could go after Stavror. It's a pity that I didn't get them last turn. They would have really helped to be able to do that and to be able to maybe muster troops here. On the bright side, though, Stavror is becoming less valuable because if they come in, then Ferlari is actually a fairly powerful force that can be moved against them. On the other hand, of course, Ferlari could move directly against Talpletor. So maybe balancing that out with something as a counterweight is worthwhile. So I'm going to leave Measle there in that hope. All right, I'm set for my attacks, and I'll come back and see what happens. But we can see we're attacking on a broad front, hitting a number of these locations. This could go fairly poorly, but it did not go terribly well for the Emperor. For the Dark Emperor, not the Light Emperor. No diplomatic successes. That's the big hit, really. It would have been great to have Stavror or to have some of these reinforcements jump on the board where they could help. Fernand's force has lost 2 greater vampires. It's fairly weak. A good chance of Fernand himself being killed. And then his mercenaries can't be regenerated. So, you know, it wipes out the mercenary force as a viable option. Up here, well, we managed to knock out the cav that was there, but at cost, and we're not really in place yet to start attacking down here. And they're going to be able to build up forces or shift them into position so that they've got stronger defenses facing where things are. These undead here, well, that's a kind of weak force, and while it managed to knock out the city, and now this isn't going to be able to build or produce for Zolohastor, it is kind of still a disadvantage that they're not there, because I could move troops in there to defend it, or I could attack the weaker location. So that's not in as good a shape either. Paterch failed in his attack. It turned out to be an even attack, even with him in there, because of the mountains. He didn't have siege equipment. These two went fairly easily and are pretty strong. We did not get any undead out of this. But you know what? We wouldn't have had room for them anyway. I got to lose a lesser vampire there. I'm only allowed 3 units. Oh, I got 3. That stupid negator with me, or whatever. And here I took losses from attrition as well, because I can only have 5 units there. But it was just, you know, if I had made other attacks, I would have been weaker on my attack and not able maybe to take the area, and the other units might have died from attrition by moving. I don't have a lot of reserves coming up here. I'd been hoping to get some of these undead moving. I've got a lot of force up here, but that's really all I've got in terms of a strong force. Now, next turn, because of the vampires I lost, unless a lot of territory falls somehow to the Imperials, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think, if anything, I'm going to end up ahead because I took this and I took some Imperial lands. I should be able to get a good additional set of vampires, but not that many. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. The big loss of not getting the diplomatic advantage is huge. Now I've got a big turn for the Kingdom player finally, and from now on in the game gets a lot slower. It doesn't just become the Necromancer trying to figure out what to do and then seeing how lucky he gets. Now he's got an active opponent with significant leaders, so he can go around activating other kingdoms if he wants to, or he can use them in order to lead forces. It's an interesting combination there. Little mouth, the 90 points for Zola Hassler, minus what the Necromancer has taken. You know, along here he's got control. He's got control down here. A lot of points have been taken away. Ends up being 64 points. Now that's not a bad number. That's exactly the number of legions that I have. I have 6 legions left. Those are the best units in the game, basically. There's nothing higher than strength 3, I don't think. That's Coastal Coast has, yeah. I think strength 3 is the biggest things that there are. So those suckers are going to be able to come into play. And remember, undead legions aren't necessarily a good thing, because the Staff of the Empire can take command of those and take them away from the Necromancer player if he's got a big stack of those. So I generally don't try to get them, even though they're really good. They're 3-pointers. Oh no, they're 2-pointers on the back. Yeah, undead are always weaker. I don't know, I'm having trouble focusing here on, because it's not a face. I don't know. The old camera worked a lot better with the counters, I guess. All right, I've also got the interesting thing of the dragon here. I know where that is, and that likes me a lot. So I've got some really interesting choices of what to go for. Lord Montnoy and Coastal Coast are good mercenaries, but I don't really want to expend a lot of effort on them. The dragon's a +3. He's pretty potent. The Calarian Ariat, but I can't get that into play very easily. Ferlari can be quite a problem for Tal Pletor, and might be able to knock out the ability to keep funneling reinforcements out of into the north of the Empire at the very least. I don't think things are going well for the Necromancer, but I always don't think they are. It's a tough game for them. You've got all the decisions at the beginning, and you know, everything that doesn't go well, it feels like it's your fault. So kind of magnifies it. All right, I'll try to decide what the hell to do in terms of production, but I think I'm going to build all those heavies. So I built a lot of heavy infantry, many of them here at the capital, 4 of them there. Moved around here, grabbed this more important city, but this one ended up empty, even though I made 2 attempts to try to get into it, to defend it. I weakened the northern defenses significantly. I left a legion here. Conceivably, I could make an attack on Paterch Darchoim. I've got 5, he's only got 3, but it would have meant associating a leader. I viewed it more important to kill Fernand, who will die completely if I finish him off. So I sent Farnan. He's my best leader, essentially. He'll outrank him a little bit. He doesn't have his siege engine. The siege engine went over here with Keber Whitehand, who is a life mage. Not sure if he can carry the Staff of the Empire while Nikon's alive. That's the problem. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any special restrictions on it. So he's been handed the Staff of the Empire. That increases his leadership value to 3. That's important because he'll have a significant advantage there. Remember, that gives you +3 to the die roll. And it's the pluses to the die roll that are important. Like a 2-to-1 force only gives you +1. So good leadership's really important in this game. The Emperor I sent out here. Now this could be kind of goofy and dangerous. He's going to try to convince the dragon, of all things, to join him. That's a powerful fire mage, as is the Emperor. This could be a risky play, because if I fail to get him, I've only got a +3 on him. If I fail to get him, I probably lose the Emperor, which would kind of suck. But I can live with that. He's not that potent a leader. Which is why I risked him sending Keber this way, because Keber is not a great military leader, but he is a good life mage, which means he can start wiping out vampires permanently, the greater vampires. That's a powerful ability, and that's what he's going to use his magic for. And let me think what else. There's something else going on here that I didn't mention. Yeah. Oh yeah. These monsters. So they have a value. That's not a heroic combat strength. That doesn't affect the die roll. They count as units, which means if Nikon's stacked with that after having summoned it, he's pretty much either dead or he summons it, right? Or he flees somewhere on the chance that he survives. So if he successfully summons it, he's got a 5-point unit, and it counts against stacking, but it has unlimited movement like a leader does. So it's a very, very powerful piece in combat. Not as powerful as a leader is, maybe. A leader with weak forces can get you better modifiers on here, but with his big fire combat ability and everything, he seemed cooler than most countries would be at this point. Just in terms of being able to do damage. He can't do much to Tal Plator. Maybe Falari would be more valuable. That would be a +3. Kalarian Narayat, you know, it's too far from the zone to really be able to do much at this point. I have to get Loy Marich into the battle, and that's sitting there as a buffer state. I'll come back after the battles and probably roll off that sum. The results of the battle weren't terribly dramatic. Ferdinand Conniver here was wiped out by Farnan. I don't think there were any losses there. And we can remove his units. He won't be able to rebuild them anymore. The units he has still in the game remain in the game, and they'll serve as garrisons back here. And they could be turned undead too eventually, in which case they get a second shot, right? If things turn out right. I can turn Tolmorn around. He's got his magic back at this point. Keber's attack was not so good. He ended up with only a +3. He killed a vampire permanently. That'll go in the bag along with the Fernand units. But he didn't get a good die roll on it. Ended up getting a 1-1 split. Killed another vampire. The siege engine's still there. And he's still got a pretty mighty force there, but I may be overstacked. That's 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, 6. So I ended up okay. I had 1 extra unit. No, actually, I was good no matter what. I had counted out my units, I think. Awfully clever of me. So now we have the interesting thing, which is Syrax here. Essentially, I need a 7 or better to get him. By the way, Conniver failed to roll his survival roll. He had to roll a 2 or less. And if he had, he would have been able to escape, you know, to some other location on the board. I get an 8. That means Syrax is in the game, and he's joined the kingdoms, and now he'll be able to do some serious damage, like capturing a city, for example, or whatever. You know, he's got really, really potent abilities with that fast movement and counting as a unit. All right, I guess that is it for the kingdom player. Total necromancer production was up around 160. That meant they could build 12 new vampires, what with the losses they took before. The problem is they don't have enough vampires in cities to do that. So they got about an 8, I think, which gives them a significant power. But, you know, a lot of it's places back here and here and here where they're going to have to shift them up. They'll probably take attrition losses. Well, they definitely will. So you've got to kind of keep this funnel going to bring your vampires into the game. And that's a tough decision where, hey, do I use my troops for immediate gains, or am I going to try to defend what I have? I've got some meaty targets up here in terms of value that I'd love to take away from Zohar-Lasar or whatever. They've still got a lot of troops to build. Now these infantry are very expensive, as are the cav at 10 and 15 points for 1-point units. Siege engine is of course of some value. I wonder what that little flower that keeps showing up on my symbol means. Now there's a candle, which probably means light. I have no idea what the flower means though. And I got a couple of boats, which, well, boats are pretty useless unless I'm planning an invasion. I'm not in any state to do that right now. They're going to be trying to defend themselves probably for the rest of the game. So, well, we'll see where we're going to go with the Necromancer forces. But he's got some serious worries in hand, including killing off this dragon here, which I think may get a heroic survival if it loses in a battle. I have to look at that. I'm not certain about a lot of these kind of things. Might be worth building troops near it, like instead of building another guard here, a regular infantry, but my chances of killing anything, especially with Nikon there and his big fire rating, and the dragon with its fire rating, is just about nothing. They're going to be able to cause harm. The question is where they cause it. Right now at 162 production, I'm well into the substantial victory range. So at this point, the Necromancer is doing quite well. If he can keep this kind of pressure on the Empire, he's in pretty good shape. The Empire's got its big force in play right now, but it may be able to bring more allies in to help handle this issue, especially to try to cut Tal Pletor into submission. Okay, Tolmorn used up his magic. Trying to move things downward into here. Lost my undead cav here. I chose to lose that instead of the siege engine. That might be an iffy choice because now I'm fairly weak. Depending on what the Empire builds there, he could wipe out and capture my siege engine actually, which is a serious problem. The only attack I made was over here, taking the capital. That's a rich way to deprive the Empire of a good deal of cash. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. Well, this 2 I was already depriving them of here. So 8 points for that attack. Alternatively, I could have made an attack on Farnon. The chances of killing him are low, though. You need a really good roll to really wipe out a big force. So when you're facing a big army, usually what you're going to be ending up doing is, knocking it back, but you don't get a chance to try to execute the leader. Of course, if I sent Paterch to chow him in there, he would have a pretty good chance of just killing him using magic. He gets a survival roll, though, at 50-50, and that could do a lot. That would have wiped out a bunch of units and been almost as rich an area. Might have been a better move. Lost some units to attrition, quite a few actually. And, well, it's like, of course I can rebuild the units in the fighting zone if I'm still there. I've got a couple of meaty targets sitting here. Paterch is dangerous, though. He still has all his death magic, which is a match for Keber's life magic, which means Paterch can roll to see if he kills him. And then if he does, Keber can keep rolling to see if he can cancel that. And so it just ends up kind of this challenge between the two, who can outroll the other. The advantage probably goes to Keber, but if he loses the battle, the staff is no longer effective because there's no leader there unless he puts somebody in there with him. And Paterch is probably fairly certain to defeat a large force that way, whereas Tolmorn is a good leader, but he doesn't have any magic left because he was trying to raise a boat from the dead. He also is a weaker magic. Consolidating some forces here for another attempt coming through, but it's rough getting over the mountains in this game. The high attrition cost. Bringing more in here, of course. Diplomacy failed again. Close failures. I actually put Stomarik down with Measle with the intention of trying to bring Stavror in. I think if they came in at that point, that would change the tenor of the game significantly. A bunch of these forces beginning to build up and put a threat up here and here. That could be a major factor here. Sturmarin has a lot of boats, though, which aren't terribly useful except in terms of shipping stuff forward. And once they start doing that, it makes Villari certainly even more interesting as an option than they currently are. Although they currently are interesting. The big problem for the Kingdoms player is they don't have a lot of people they can spare. As it is, they're sparing Nikon because he's not terribly valuable. With a 1 leadership and a 2 fire rune, sending him off to go summon things is probably the best use. We got some undead moving their way down here. Anyway, see what the kingdom can do. Okay, so two big attacks. One on Partridge Charm with the with White Hand, and the force he had with his siege engine. He has 2-to-1 odds. If he manages to dispel some vampires, he'll have better odds. Of course, during all that, he might get killed by the death magic being used against him. On the other hand, we have a more iffy attack here with Farnon. He's essentially counting on the dragon here, wiping out some of his enemy. Because otherwise, he's had some significant penalties. I think actually attacking at 1-to-2 with a penalty from the leadership. This may not work well for him at all. But if he can get better odds, he can maybe kill off some of those vampires, and that'll work out well in an attritional type way. An attack here without leadership. I sent Nikon over to try to get Ferlari into the game. I feel kind of pressured with the Empire. I don't feel like I've got a sure thing going here. I know I feel kind of like, gee, the Necromancer's having trouble, but right now he does have enough points to win, so if he can keep things kind of balanced, he's in good shape. Of course, if the Empire's taking too many risks and ends up going badly on them, that could go very badly. Ferlari was an interesting choice. I was deeply considering the Scythe instead, because these Rock Riders are more mobile and better positioned to take out Tal Plator. However, I got a +1 on Ferlari, so that's really the deciding factor there. Let's see how the battles turn out. Actually, let's do this interesting one first. We're going to have the life magic. Keber is going to try to destroy a vampire. He's going to try to destroy a greater vampire. He could use it to wipe all the lesser vampires out temporarily, but there's only one in the hex. So he's going to use his life magic to do that. He needs a 1-4 because that's what his magic rating is. Now, Partridge can counter that himself, and you got to kind of keep count of how many magic are taken over the course of a turn. Neither of them have spent any yet. So here's the life magic going, and that's a success. Now here's the question: does Partridge want to counter that? It's a permanent vampire death. Or does he want to try to kill Keber? He's going to try to kill Keber instead of countering it. Now he could use all his magic up on counters, but now he's going to try to go for the death. He fails on that. That means Keber could fire again. Now Keber could end up dead if he uses too much of this up. He may have a way of banishing Partridge, I think. I know he can do it to Tolmorn, but I'm not sure about Partridge. At least I think so. No, only Tolmorn, and he gets a hero's check. All right, we'll try to kill another vampire. We're only on 3 now, and we succeed again. Partridge is going to allow another vampire to be killed. Can't allow the last one to go, but he may not need to. But he's going to go for a kill on Keber, and he succeeds. Now Keber's down to a 2 mana. He can counter this. He fails. He'll try again with a 1 because his magic doesn't mean anything if he doesn't. Now he gets a hero's check. Now he's got a pretty good hero's check. He's got a 3 because of the Staff of the Empire. And he fails that. So Keber is now dead. Now if there was a life mage present, him, at the end of the battle he could be raised, but he's rather dead, so he can't do that. So these are all permanent losses over there. Now we got the battle itself, and we've got one lesser vampire who's not doubled. Only 2 strength points versus 6, 9, 12, 15. So that's a 7-to-1. That's a +6 on the attack, but no leadership from their side. So he has -2, so it's a +4 on the attack. That's still pretty good. Partridge is in trouble here. The +4 at 9, he's going to take a 3R, which is enough to destroy his vampire. Not permanently, it's only a lesser, anyhow. And now he gets to make his own survival check. If he fails this, he comes back in 2 turns. It's not as permanent a situation, and he does fail it. But that's a significant blow, losing him for a turn. However, on the other hand, the Imperials essentially lost Keber because they don't have a life mage in the Hex. I'll go do the other battle. The other one's interesting too. Maybe I should do that right away. Okay, Tol Morn has nothing going for him. All he's got is the Hero's Sword, which puts him up to a 4. But I've got this fire magic, which I can use to kill things. See how well that works. Wall of Flames, I don't want to do that, that's a movement one. Incinerate, I can eliminate units. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go for Greater Vampires. They'll only be temporarily eliminated, but they're big strength. Now I only have a 3, unless I started off in a Fire Hex. I was in this star, it has no runes attached to it. So let's try to kill him. 3, 2, got 1, 1. I killed one of the vampires. And now let's see what we have. We have 11 points. Doubled is 22. To 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 22. So I've got a 1-to-1 attack, but I'm at -1 because Tol Morn is a better leader. And that's not good. I'm probably not going to succeed in doing anything here. It was a mistake to attack here. Well, I get a 2R and a 2. Both sides are going to lose 2 units. The vampires hold the space, but I can lose 2 crappy infantry. And now I have to retreat. And that's kind of tricky. I don't think I all have to retreat to the same location. If I do, I'm going to have perhaps stacking problems. We'll see how that works. Yes, I'm going into a lot of detail here, but I felt like this was a key turn. Tol Morn, of course, kept the Hex, which is important because it keeps the Dawn Lantern as well. Now, I was able to split for a retreat, and I chose to retreat a single Legion here. That's probably not a tasty enough target to hit with enough force to be survivable in this area. Things are kind of dangerous for Tol Morn. He doesn't have any replacements or any reinforcements near him. He's going to get a pile of replacements here, however many vampires he has. He's going to get 2 more Greater Vampires, I assume, there. So he'll have a significant force, but he may have to get out of there if I can't do something significant to the forces that are really aligned there. And now we have Nikon here. Now Nikon has no special magic to help him here. Fire magic's not going to impress anyone in diplomacy. But Ferlari has a +3. And he gets them. So Ferlari is now a part of the Kingdom's alliance. And they'll be able to start producing next turn. And presumably move against Tal Plator. Unless, of course, Staff Roar comes in.